Hello students, today you're going to take Cornell notes on blood. This is the kind that you have a summary for and an advanced question. Let's begin. For number 1, go ahead and write blood. So the definition for blood is a type of connective tissue that is made of plasma, white blood cells, red blood cells, and platelets. And humans have on average about 10 pints. And I'll show you how much 10 pints is in a minute. Here's 10 pints. A pint is about a bottle of water. So we have about 10 bottles of water or pints worth of blood, which is also known as 5 liters. So our blood has different things in it. You see there's red circles, there's this yellowy liquid, and there's these purple circles, and we'll get to those in a minute. The question you can write on the left is, what is blood? And just like every other day, you make up the other questions. Whenever you're watching a video, I just say the first one out loud. Okay, moving on to number 2. For number 2, let's talk about the pieces or the things in blood. So blood has red blood cells, and they deliver glucose and oxygen to all of your living cells. So those would be these little red circles. In one drop of blood, you would have thousands and thousands of blood cells because they're pretty small and they're kind of disc shaped. So when we take blood, especially if you put it in a centrifuge, something that spins the blood, you'll divide it into its different components. It's made mostly of plasma, which is this yellow liquid that has antibodies, and red blood cells is the second majority of things, and then white blood cells too. But the red blood cells look like discs, and they carry the oxygen and the glucose to all of your living cells. Go ahead and come up with a question for 2. If you're ready, let's move on to 3. Okay, for number 3, write white blood cells. The white blood cells are actually bigger than the red blood cells. Here's one right here. And if you're asking why does it look purple if it's called white, the reason why is because it was stained so you can see it. Because it's white, it's hard to see in a microscope, so you can put a purple stain to see it a little bit clearer. But it's a big cell, and there's not that much of it in your blood compared to red blood cells. There's much more red blood cells per every white blood cell. But it's a type of cell, these right here, that destroy viruses and bacteria. So when you have a virus or bacteria in your blood, these cells are in charge of destroying it. And it's kind of like that video game Pac-Man where it opens up his mouth and eats things. So when you have bacteria, the white blood cell actually envelops it with its membrane, kind of reshapes itself, and then closes around the bacteria. And then the lysosomes break down the bacteria so that it doesn't hurt you. Alright, go ahead and come up with a question for 3. And if you're ready, let's move on to the last idea for today. Platelets. Platelets are a type of cell that repairs you when you have a cut. So let's look at those in a minute here. So when you get a cut, let's say you're running around, you fall, you're on a skateboard and you fall and you scrape yourself and blood comes out. You've ripped the skin, this right here is the skin, and the blood vessel too, which is under here, and then the blood leaks out. Now why don't you leak out from a paper cut or scrape? The reason are these guys here called platelets. Pretty amazing little cells. What happens is they cover up the hole or the opening. They're very good at linking with each other, and they kind of gum up and cover each other, and that's what becomes a scab eventually, so your blood doesn't keep leaking out. So platelets are the ones that are in charge of blocking any holes or openings and capturing any blood that's escaping so that it just kind of continues flowing down the capillaries, veins, or arteries. So again, it's a type of cell that repairs you when you have a cut. They're so small, you can see one right here, and there's not that many, there's maybe one here, that are, there's not as many as white blood cells, so it's usually more red blood cells, followed by white blood cells, and then platelets. But the majority of blood is actually made of a thing called plasma, which we'll talk about another time. Alright, go ahead and come up with a question for 4, and don't forget your summary and advanced question. Have a good day.